Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going backstage at the Grammys, the biggest night in music.
Yeah.
And we've got a really interesting mix of sources that you've sent over.
Yes.
We've got everything from a high schooler's take on the Grammys to the actual Wikipedia page, and even some spicy Reddit threads.
Yeah, those are always fun.
Right. So are the Grammys all about, like they say, recognizing amazing music?
Yeah.
Or is there something else going on?
That's a good question. Let's find out.
Okay, so to kick things off,
Yeah.
we should probably start with what the Grammys are supposed to be all about.
Definitely. So it's all about recognizing musical excellence, according to the Recording Academy.
Yeah.
The folks who run the show.
They are the ones in charge.
And it's peer voted, right?
Yeah.
Not just based on who's topping the charts.
It's not like, just a popularity contest.
Okay, so that makes sense. But
Yeah.
how does the whole voting thing actually work?
I'm imagining like thousands of musicians all trying to vote on every song.
Well, it's actually a pretty detailed process.
Okay.
And it has multiple steps.
Okay.
So first you have tons of recordings that get submitted every year,
What?
like way more than you can even imagine.
I bet.
And then comes the categorization process, where each submission gets put into the right genre category. This is super important because it determines which category an artist or album will compete in.
Oh, that makes sense.
And finally, the voting happens in 2 rounds.
Okay.
So the first round narrows it down to a handful of nominees in each category.
Yeah.
And then the final round determines the winner.
Gotcha.
So
there's a system in place.
There's a system.
But some of these sources you sent are making me wonder if that system is always fair.
Right.
Like that high school article that you mentioned. Yeah. I mean, the title was actually "Are the Grammys Rigged?"
Yeah, they didn't hold back at all.
No, they did not.
Yeah.
And the doubts don't stop there.
Right.
Remember when The Weeknd got completely snubbed back in 2021?
I remember that.
I mean, he didn't mince words.
No.
He actually said the Grammys remain corrupt.
Wow.
That's a pretty serious accusation.
Yeah.
Coming from a huge artist like him.
Definitely.
Yeah, it definitely makes you wonder what's going on behind the scenes.
Yeah, it makes you think.
And then you've got these Reddit threads.
Oh, yeah.
One of them even asks if the Grammys are really bought.
Oh, wow.
It feels like a lot of people have questions about how much money plays a role in all of this.
For sure. Money definitely plays a role. And that's where things get really interesting because it's no secret that record labels spend a ton of money on Grammy campaigns.
They do.
To promote their artists.
Yeah, think about all those for your consideration billboards.
Oh, yeah.
You see everywhere, especially during award season.
Right.
And those fancy industry parties.
All those parties.
It's all about trying to get the attention of those Grammy voters.
Exactly. You're trying to woo them, wine and dine them.
It's like campaigning.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a whole campaign.
And those campaigns can get super elaborate.
Yeah.
I mean, with billboards, exclusive listening parties.
Yeah, all the things.
And even ads in all sorts of magazines.
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason you see for your consideration plastered all over L.A.
Totally.
If you happen to be there during award season.
Right.
One Redditor even pointed out how you can't even drive down Sunset Boulevard.
I know.
Without seeing at least a dozen of those billboards.
So many.
And another mentioned seeing those for your consideration ads in a magazine called American Cinematographer.
Wow.
It's interesting how deep these campaigns go.
Yeah, they really...
So it sounds like money definitely has an influence.
It does.
But is it really as simple as just buying a Grammy?
That's a great question.
I mean, if you could, artists like Nicki Minaj,
Yeah.
who has been pretty vocal
right.
about wanting one, would probably have a shelf full by now.
Yeah, she would definitely have a lot of Grammys if that were the case.
I mean, she's definitely got the resources
to
mount a huge campaign.
For sure.
Right.
So money might not guarantee a win.
Okay.
But it definitely helps to have the resources to make your artist stand out.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So if it's not just about the money, what else is at play here?
Well,
is there some kind of bias, or are there other things going on?
There are definitely patterns in Grammy wins that make you think. Like Adele, for example.
Right.
She's considered a Grammy darling.
Yeah, she has won a ton of awards over the years.
Yeah, and she almost always wins.
Right.
When she's nominated.
So is that just because she's super talented? Or is something else going on?
She's undeniably talented.
Right.
But her consistent wins do raise an interesting question.
Is there a bias towards certain artists or types of music?
What are the qualities that the Academy seems to consistently reward? Is it her vocal talent, her broad appeal, or maybe even the fact that she's seen as a safe choice?
That's a really good point. The safe choice thing makes you think.
Yeah.
Especially when you consider some of those Reddit threads about artists thanking Beyoncé in their speeches.
I saw those.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, is that a sign of her influence? Or are some artists just afraid of backlash if they don't mention her?
You never know.
It's hard to know for sure.
And these discussions get even more heated.
Right.
When you look at certain Grammy wins
Yeah.
that sparked major controversy. Like when Macklemore beat Kendrick Lamar.
Oh, that one caused a huge uproar.
It did.
Everyone was talking about.
For good reason, Lamar's album was considered groundbreaking
Right.
and a true masterpiece.
By a lot of people.
By a lot of...
Right. And Macklemore's album was successful.
It was commercially successful.
Commercially.
Yes.
But not seen as being on the same artistic level.
Exactly.
And even Macklemore himself admitted that he thought Kendrick deserved to win.
Yeah, he texted him.
Really?
Yeah, he said,
wow.
You got robbed.
That really adds another layer to this whole thing.
It does. It really sparked a conversation about whether the Grammys are actually recognizing the most deserving artists.
Right.
Especially in genres like hip-hop.
So it sounds like we've got some real concerns about bias,
Definitely.
influence, and maybe even a little bit of politics.
It's all mixed in there.
Mixed in with these awards.
Yeah.
But the Recording Academy is aware of all this, right?
I mean, they've been around for a long time.
Yeah.
So they must have made some changes along the way.
Right.
They have. In fact, they've made some pretty big changes in recent years to try and address these criticisms. One of the most significant was getting rid of those mysterious nomination review committees entirely.
What were those?
Oh, good catch.
I don't think those were mentioned
Okay.
in any of the sources you sent over.
So they weren't always talked about openly.
Okay.
But those committees were basically groups of anonymous industry figures who had the power to overrule the initial votes.
So they could basically just decide who they wanted to be nominated.
Pretty much.
Regardless of what everyone else voted for.
Yeah.
Wow, that sounds a little shady.
Yeah, a lot of people felt that way, especially after The Weeknd called them out.
Oh, right.
In 2021.
And he was snubbed.
When he was snubbed.
Yeah.
So the Academy decided to drop the committees entirely.
Okay.
In an attempt to make the process more transparent.
Okay, so now it's all about the voters.
Right.
But is there a way to make sure that those voters are representative of the music industry as a whole?
Yeah.
I mean, the music world is incredibly diverse.
It is.
But I'm not sure if the people making these decisions
that's something
always reflect that.
The Academy has been working on. They've been trying to invite a wider range of people to join their voting membership, including more women, people of color, and representatives from various genres.
That sounds like a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
But even with these changes, it's hard to shake this feeling that there's still a lot going on behind the scenes.
Absolutely. Even with these changes, it's still a system run by humans with their own preferences, biases, and even personal relationships.
Okay, so we've got this system that's trying to be more transparent.
Yeah.
But it's still got its flaws.
Right.
And that brings us back to a question that keeps popping up.
Yeah.
What actually makes a music award legitimate? Is it purely about the artistic quality of the music? Or is there more to it than that?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
And there's no easy answer.
Yeah.
Some people might say it's all about recognizing the most talented musicians and groundbreaking music.
Yeah.
While others might argue that it's also about cultural impact.
Right.
Innovation and pushing boundaries.
Yeah, and it's not just about the winners either.
Right.
Some artists have actually rejected the Grammys altogether.
Totally.
Like Sinead O'Connor back in 1991.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she boycotted the ceremony.
She did.
Because she felt the whole thing was too focused on commercial success and not enough on artistic integrity.
That's right.
And more recently, Rhiannon Giddens criticized the Grammys for their new policy of charging nominees to bring a +1 to the ceremony.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
They have to pay to bring a guest. That seems a little odd.
It's actually a tiered system.
Okay.
But yeah, it caused a lot of debate.
Yeah, about who can even afford to participate in this supposed prestigious event.
Right.
Does it create a barrier for up-and-coming artists
Yeah.
who might not have the same financial resources as the big names?
Exactly.
So even if an artist is nominated,
yeah.
they might have to pay just to attend the ceremony, where they could potentially win an award.
Exactly. And that gets at something really important.
Yeah.
The Grammys aren't just about music.
Right.
They're also a business. There's money involved at every level.
That makes you wonder how much of what we see is really about artistic merit, and how much is about the business side of things.
Right. And how much influence does that have on who gets nominated, who wins, and even who gets to attend the ceremony?
Right.
These are questions worth thinking about.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we've got these questions about money, influence, and even access swirling around the Grammys. And on top of all that, we have those controversial wins and snubs that keep people talking for years.
Oh, for sure. It's a lot to unpack.
It really is. But before we get too overwhelmed, maybe it would help to look at some specific examples of those controversial moments.
Yeah.
Would you be up for diving into some of those infamous Grammy snubs and surprises?
I'm curious to see how those moments play into the bigger picture.
All right, then. Let's do it.
Okay, so we've been talking about all these controversial moments in Grammy history.
Yeah.
But what are some specific examples that really stand out?
Oh, there's so many.
I know.
But
yeah,
where better to start than the infamous Macklemore and Kendrick Lamar situation?
Oh, yeah.
Back in 2014.
The one where Macklemore won Best Rap Album for The Heist.
Yes.
Beating out Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, M.A.D. City.
It was huge controversy.
It was huge, I remember.
Kendrick's album was widely praised.
Yeah.
It was hailed as a game changer for hip-hop.
Yeah.
And considered a masterpiece by many critics.
By a lot of people. Macklemore's album was commercially successful for sure.
Yeah.
But not necessarily seen on the same artistic level.
Right. And it wasn't just the fans who were upset.
Right.
I mean, even Macklemore himself seemed to think Kendrick deserved to win.
He did.
He even admitted to texting Kendrick.
Yeah, he texted him.
And saying, "You got robbed."
You got robbed. It makes you wonder what the voters were thinking.
Seriously.
That situation really brought up questions about racial bias in the Grammys.
Yeah.
The influence of commercial success over artistic merit.
Right.
And whether the voters are really in touch with what's happening in specific genres like hip-hop.
So it really makes you realize that these Grammy wins
Yeah.
aren't always about who's the most talented
Right.
or who made the most groundbreaking music.
Right. It's not always a clear-cut decision.
Yeah, there seem to be other factors at play.
Absolutely.
But then on the flip side,
yeah.
there have been times when the Grammys have surprised everyone
Right.
by seemingly getting it right.
Yeah, like in 2019
Uh-huh.
when Childish Gambino's This Is America
Yeah.
won Song of the Year and Record of the Year.
Yeah, that was a pretty big deal.
It was huge.
Because it's the first time a rap song had ever won
Yeah.
in those major categories.
Exactly.
So do you think it was also a reflection of the song's cultural impact?
Oh, for sure.
I mean, This Is America
Yeah.
sparked so many important conversations about race and social justice.
It really transcended music and became a cultural phenomenon.
But even that win wasn't without its critics.
Right. Some people argued that while it was a powerful statement, it wasn't necessarily the most musically deserving song of the year. So it seems like even when they make a decision that seems progressive, there's still room for debate.
Right. So there's always going to be people
who always disagree.
And that's what makes these award shows so fascinating.
Right.
They're a reflection of the complexities of the music industry.
And the subjective nature of art itself.
And speaking of subjective, I want to go back to something we touched on earlier.
Okay.
About those perceived Grammy darlings.
Yeah.
You mentioned Adele as an example.
Uh-huh.
She's incredibly talented.
Yes.
But it seems like she almost always wins when she's nominated.
Well, Adele is undeniably talented.
Right.
But her consistent wins do make you wonder.
I know.
What it is about her music that resonates so strongly with the voters.
Is it because she's a safe choice for the Grammys?
That could be it.
Is that what it is?
It's interesting. Her music often appeals to a wide audience.
Yeah.
It's not too experimental.
Okay.
And it's generally well received by both critics and fans.
So like familiar, enjoyable, not too challenging.
Yeah, you could almost say it's like the musical equivalent of comfort food.
I like that.
Right.
Familiar, enjoyable, not too challenging.
Yeah.
Maybe the Grammy voters are just looking for something that feels familiar and safe.
Oh, especially when they're sifting through so much music.
Right. I mean, they probably get sent hundreds of albums.
Thousands.
Thousands.
Literally thousands.
Wow.
Yeah, and remember, those Grammy voters are human, with their own preferences, and maybe even a bit of nostalgia.
Yeah.
Sometimes those factors can influence the final decision.
So it's not always about pushing boundaries or being the most innovative.
Not always about that.
Maybe it's about connecting with a wide audience on a more emotional level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But then you also have to consider how entire genres have historically been underrepresented at the Grammys.
Like what?
For example, Latin music often gets relegated to the Latin Grammys, even when those artists are making waves in mainstream music.
It seems like there's a disconnect sometimes between how the Grammys categorize music and how music is actually being consumed and experienced by people.
Absolutely. And it raises questions about how the Grammys define what's mainstream versus what belongs in a separate category.
Right.
And those decisions can have a ripple effect on an artist's career.
Especially if their music crosses genres.
Exactly. And we've seen artists speak out about this.
Yeah, like...
Remember when The Weeknd was snubbed for After Hours?
Oh, yeah, back in 2021?
He felt like the Grammys mishandled the categorization of his music, placing him in pop categories when he considers himself an R&B artist.
Right, and he was huge that year.
He was.
His song Blinding Lights was everywhere.
Oh, it's a great song.
It was shocking that he wasn't even nominated.
It was. And he actually boycotted the Grammys.
He did.
After that incident, because he felt like his music wasn't being recognized in the right context.
So it's not just about winning or losing.
Right.
It's about how an artist is perceived.
Yeah.
How their music is categorized. And how all of that plays into their chances in the Grammy game.
You got it. It's this intricate web of factors.
Right.
With money influence, artistic vision, and human judgment all coming into play.
So much to think about. It really makes you wonder what the Recording Academy is doing to address all this criticism.
Yeah. Have they acknowledged these issues?
Right. Are they actually trying to make things better?
They definitely have.
Okay.
In fact, we've got a whole section dedicated to their response to all the controversy. Are you ready to dive into the reforms?
Absolutely.
The transparency efforts?
Yes.
And maybe even a few surprises?
I'm ready to see what they've done to try and fix the system. So we spent a lot of time dissecting what some might say are the Grammys' flaws.
Yeah.
But it sounds like the Recording Academy hasn't just been ignoring all the criticism.
No, they haven't. They've actually taken some steps to address these issues.
Like what?
One of the most notable shifts was getting rid of those controversial nomination review committees.
Right. Those secret committees that could
basically overrule the votes of the actual Grammy members.
Exactly.
The ones The Weeknd called out back in 2021.
Yeah, those committees were a big source of contention.
Yeah, because they operated in secrecy.
Right.
And had the power to completely change the list of nominees.
Yeah. After The Weeknd's very public criticism, the Academy decided to scrap those committees altogether.
Okay, so now it's entirely up to the voting members.
It is.
To decide who gets nominated and who wins.
It's a way of putting more power in the hands of the people who are actually part of the music industry.
But it does raise the question of whether the voting membership itself is truly representative of the music world in all its diversity.
And that's something they're aware of.
Yeah.
And they've been making efforts to diversify their voting membership.
So how are they doing that?
They've been actively inviting more women, people of color,
and representatives from a wider range of genres to join.
So they're trying to have a voting body.
Yeah, the idea is to have a voting body that better reflects the actual landscape of the music industry.
Okay, it's going to take time to see how much of an impact these changes actually have.
Changing a system as large and established as the Grammys takes time.
Right.
But it's encouraging to see them acknowledge the criticisms and take concrete steps toward reform.
Yeah.
Only time will tell how much of a difference it will make.
You know, after all this, I keep coming back to that fundamental question.
Right.
What makes a music award legitimate?
That is the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do you think?
What should be rewarded?
Yeah, what qualities or achievements should be recognized and rewarded? in the music world.
It's tough.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me thinks it should be all about the music itself.
Okay.
Like the artistry, the innovation, the skill.
Yeah.
But then I think about artists like Childish Gambino, who make music that's both powerful and culturally relevant.
Right. Should that be taken into consideration?
Should it?
Yeah. Should an award like the Grammys just focus on musical excellence?
Right.
Or should it also acknowledge the impact
right.
an artist or song has on society and culture?
And who even gets to decide what's excellent
right.
or impactful?
Exactly. And that's what makes these discussions so interesting.
Yeah.
There's no single right answer.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Yeah.
Just by diving into these sources.
Yeah.
And having this conversation.
It's been great.
It really has.
The goal isn't to tell you what to think,
right.
but to equip you with the knowledge and different perspectives to form your own opinions.
Okay, so as we wrap things up, what's the final thought-provoking nugget you want to leave our listeners with?
The next time you see those golden gramophones being handed out, remember this conversation.
Okay.
Don't just accept the results at face value. Think critically about what the Grammys represent.
Okay.
Ask yourself, what do you value in music?
Okay.
Does the Recording Academy seem to align with those values? And if not, what does that tell you? About the music industry, about how we recognize artistic achievement, and about the very nature of awards themselves.
Those are some really good questions.
Keep asking questions. Keep listening critically. And most importantly, keep enjoying the music.
Thanks for guiding us through this fascinating deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
And to all our listeners out there, keep those questions coming.
Yeah.
Until next time, happy listening.